Welcome to the Mama's Village podcast, CT, where Fairfield County moms discover they're not alone in their struggles while uncovering the hidden gems, local treasures, and real solutions that make motherhood in Connecticut not just survivable, but extraordinary. I am your host, Abby Hartley. I am a mom of three, and I would like to request before we begin and I tell you all about my amazing guest, I would like to request that you subscribe and like and share these amazing podcasts and guests that I've had on. It helps greatly and it makes it so that we can continue to do this. So, without further ado, she is the founder of Fairfield Coastal Financial and specializes in helping individuals and families navigate significant life transitions. She believes financial planning is more than just numbers, but about goals and aspirations. Today's guest is Michelle Hobart. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So tell me about yourself, your kids, your business.
Sure. So, again, my name is Michelle Hobart. I live here in Fairfield. I have two children. One is in eighth grade and one is in fifth grade. My daughter is in eighth grade. Son is in fifth grade. I've been in Fairfield for I can't believe it, about 12 years now, which is just amazing. I'm originally from Long Island, but ended up in Fairfield like so many other Long Islanders. It's very similar, I think, but it's a little bit softer here. So I absolutely love it. I live near the beach. I'm able to enjoy the luxury of the water and being close to in town. I do think that we're pretty spoiled here in Fairfield. We just have so much at our fingertips and it's fantastic.
So you're in finance, right? So that's your
Yes.
business.
I'm a financial advisor. I have been in the industry, I'm 49 now, since 22. I don't even add the numbers up anymore because it's so depressing. So yeah, I've been in the industry for a very long time. I took breaks here and there, but started off in New York City. I taught for a year. I was actually had my own little catering company for a year, which was really fun. But then I always found myself coming back to this path. And then when I moved up to Connecticut, I started my own practice about 6 years ago at Ameriprise and spent a few years there, and then eventually took my clients from Ameriprise and obviously continued building with Fairfield Coastal Financial about a year and a half ago, and it's been amazing, and I clear through LPL Financial, but it has been kind of a dream. I never thought that I would leave, like, the bank circuit because it was just such a great place to learn, and I did it for over 20 years, but, you don't really take ownership of your business because the business belongs to the bank, but, the clients are kind of there already, so now I took the leap of faith to build my own client base about, like I said, 6 years ago, and it's one of those things where it's like, "Why didn't I start doing this sooner?" Because
Good.
yeah, it gives me the flexibility to run the business the way I wanna run the business. It's about so much more than numbers and market returns. Obviously, that's the most important thing, but it is such an incredibly personal topic in people's lives, and it affects money affects us in ways that I don't think that we really want to admit, but it's true. It's when I have some of my most meaningful meetings in my office with clients, I have a tissue box there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's almost like because people are talking about things that they don't feel comfortable talking about. And it triggers a lot for people. And it's normal to get emotional when talking about money. And I think, being able to connect with your clients in that capacity, to empower them to be able to talk about their finances and then furthermore make decisions it's a really big deal
Yeah.
for many people.
Yes, it absolutely is. We have a really important topic about finances and about money, where it comes from, things that we need to be talking to our spouses about, things that we need to be talking to our kids about. Really, really important topic today. Before we dive into that, I'd love to get into some Fairfield County hidden gems. Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
I mean, I love the food here. I love the restaurants here. What have I been loving lately? There's a new place that just opened on Post Road. It's called Cosetta. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I've heard, but I haven't been.
Yeah, it's right by the pantry, which people know where that is. And it's they just opened, not that long ago, and they have like artisanal pizza where you can get burrata pizza, truffle, this or that, and it's like, plus they have all the different paninis, like the prosciutto and fresh mozzarella, all that good stuff, and you can get it by the slice, and it's super cute inside. So sometimes I'll just find myself popping in for that. I'm also a regular. My kids and I are regular. The owner, when we walk in, knows us all by name. This Nordic Fish is like my favorite.
Oh.
Yeah, and a lot of times if I'm in a pinch and I want to grab, something to bring to someone's house, or people are coming over, I'll just call them and get a sushi platter. And their sushi is just so good, and
That's
it's
amazing.
just there's so many great places. Wild Rice just opened back up again. They
Mhm.
were a staple here for years and then closed for 3 years, and now they're back, and that's amazing too. So I take full advantage of the restaurant scene here in Fairfield.
Yes, yes, that's amazing. Just recently, speaking of like, a little pizza spot, there is one right in Westport. I went on a walk between Campo Beach and I don't even know, I guess that's
Is it
Sherland or Greens Farms.
is it light pizza or something like that?
It's just Old Mill Grocery and Deli, and they have,
Oh, I
yeah, it's really small and I don't know, it's great. I mean, it was perfect. We didn't even know it existed, and we just
my
sort of
god.
stumbled upon it, and we were, like, so hungry, and we were just like, "Oh my god, this
That's
is."
good to know because I could eat pizza every single day. There's a new pasta place that opened, like, right by, where is that? Like, the Sportsplex? I don't know the name.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Don't know
it's
the name.
mhm, yeah. I'll have to
I
try
think
it out.
I'm gonna take the kids there and hit that tonight because I love the restaurants, and I lived in the city for 7 years, and this like so many people from Fairfield, they came from the city, and I am not disappointed at all with the
Yeah,
restaurants here. We are very, very spoiled.
absolutely. What are you watching, listening to, reading?
I just finished what's that show? Nobody Wants This?
Oh,
Adorable.
you
So
love it?
cute. So easy to watch. And then I'm starting the Murdoch story. I think that one.
Mm.
Anything with Patricia Arquette, I love. I think anything she does is just so solid. Yeah, that's really it. I think why I am definitely like a Netflix, Hulu junkie, but that's what's going on right now. And then I'm rereading this book. I think I told you this is Breaking Money Silence.
Yes.
This is a book that I read when I did a workshop about kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I'm rereading that book, and that's got some really interesting information about some of the stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah, reading that.
Perfect. I am reading Don't Tell My Mom.
Yes,
Love her. I had the author on last episode. There's
she is amazing. She's
more
amazing. I
on.
started that, but I'm kind of like
Yeah.
but it's hard to read too at the same time. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to, how has that book been?
Doing great. It's wonderful. It is so, you expect that it's going to be like this, get really dark, and it doesn't, which is kind of very
Really?
nice. It's like just the right amount of, teenage drama. So it
Ugh,
doesn't feel like it's overdoing it, which is so wonderful. I was
yes.
so expecting, like I'm a television producer, so I'm expecting like drama, 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 where's the murder? Where's the this?
Right.
Like all of that. And she didn't do that. And it feels very Judy Bloom, feels very,
I love
just
that.
like wholesome and wonderful. So yes, I'm very much enjoying
I'm
it.
excited. Yes, I have it. I ordered it, when I met
Mhm,
the author as well.
mhm.
So I'm very excited because
Yeah.
I have a teen daughter, and that is
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So hopefully I'll get some solace from that book.
Yes, I think so. All right, so let's dive in. So tell me about. I obviously want to know everything there is to know about how to make my financial future better, and I know that you can give me all of the answers to that.
Well,
You and I have had conversation
mhm,
before we started this podcast about what you were calling money silence and how important it is for a relationship to not have money silence. And
Right.
it doesn't even matter what kind of relationship. So I want to know everything because I struggle myself. But when we aren't able to have these conversations about money, like bad things happen. So can you just elaborate? Tell me about money silence?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first statistic that I think I had mentioned before, and this is whenever I mention any type of statistic, it is from this book, is one out of every six Americans does not talk about money. And they would actually prefer to talk about politics or death. Like people are that uncomfortable talking about money. And this is something, again, that has started centuries ago. Again, according to this book, this started with our British founders who found it very tacky and taboo to talk about money. Some say it were the people who had wealth wanted to protect it by not talking about it. So there's all different reasons as to why there is this ongoing money silence.
And just to for our listeners, the book you're referring to is called Breaking.
Breaking money silence. Yeah. It's just based on a lot of different studies. And there's a woman, the woman who wrote the book is basically trying to break those cycles.
Mhm.
Almost like a Me Too revolution, like that sort of thing, like try to just change the way it is because this is really the way we are. People are uncomfortable talking about it. And I think it's also important to realize that this started a really long time ago in your life. I know that I can think about specific things that had happened in my life as a child that involve money that has definitely formed the way I think about money, has definitely had the ability to trigger me about certain things. I mean, just I can remember growing up, and my dad would probably not be happy that I'm telling this story, but we had new neighbors that moved onto our block. And I was like, "Oh, dad, the neighbors just moved in." And he asked me what kind of car was in the driveway, And again, my father is fantastic. He is my love of like, he's my
Mhm.
role model in every way, but he has his money story too. He
Absolutely.
worked his way up. His dad, he's from Queens. His dad had 3 jobs. My father became an attorney. He scratched and clawed. That's his money story. Those are the things that, he was programmed to think that a nice car in the driveway means that you've made it. That means you're happy. That means that you succeeded. It means that you're smart. It means all of those things. Hopefully, we're starting to break those patterns down. Generationally, we're a lot different than we were. Like the baby boomers, like my father, they were spenders. They were different than like someone, in our generation. We're not quite like that. We're a little bit more skeptical
Mhm.
than the baby boomers. So it's all very generational, but that kind of stuff, those one little nuggets that you get when you're that age, 7 or 8 years old, they kind of stick with you. And then what about, kids coming into school and bragging about some pair of fancy sneakers they got, or they're coming in from spring break all tan because they went on some fancy Caribbean trip. And the kids that didn't kind of shrink in their seat, "Why don't I have those things? Why do they get to do those things? Are my parents not as good? Do they not love me as much? Are my parents not that smart?" No, that's just where they chose to allocate their money differently.
Mhm.
These are all of these things, they start off so much earlier than we think that they do, and it's really kind of sad when we
Mhm.
think about it that, kids have so much on their plate and to kind of feel that they're losing already if their parents aren't spending the money the way, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, for lack of a better like that's kind of what it is.
And the worth that's tied to that.
Yeah, and then there's religion, there's differences with religion, Christian religion, there's verses in the Bible that talk about money being evil.
Mhm.
And whereas, there's Yiddish proverbs that are celebrating money and wealth, saying, if you have money in your pocket, there's one Yiddish proverb, I don't remember exactly, but if you have money in your pocket, you're smart, you're pretty, you can sing, all this. And I know I'm going back, but these things are really,
Yeah.
they're deep rooted and they don't the feelings that we have, they don't come from nowhere. And money is a huge part of that. It's not just, it's not just a means to buy things. It really symbolizes so many other things to us, and we're not even talking about it. So it's really like a phenomenon that it's controlling so much, it's triggering so much, but we can't talk about it. And Americans don't feel comfortable talking about it. And not only is that is what it is, but it's even happening within families and within a really close relationship with spouses, with parents, with children. And it causes problems, and it
Mm,
causes serious problems. They're not like little problems like, my brother's an idiot problem. Relationships are severed because people don't have the ability to talk about money in a constructive and conventional way.
wow.
Yeah.
Talk about, for example, what does that conversation look like?
Well, it depends. We all know that unfortunately the divorce rate is very high.
Yeah.
Some say it's over 50%. And the number one reason why people get divorced is money. It's not infidelity. But you hear it's almost like it's funny. Not funny. I'm thinking about it now. Like you watch a TV show or some sort of series and there's a marriage that's on the rocks because there's cheating. But really, the real story is when the marriage ends, statistically speaking, it's because they were fighting about money. And that's because they didn't ask the proper questions. And of course, people are young, people are silly. It's like we get married, nobody asks the questions that you're supposed to ask. Like we were saying before, it's easier for a couple to be like, I want a golden retriever, or let's get a lab, or how many kids do you want? But how are you raised with money? How did your family treat money? Education as important to you as it is to me. Would you be open to sending our children to private school? Do you want our children to pay for college? Is it all on them? How do you feel about managing money, about saving versus spending? I mean, all of those things. And would you be happy with a job that you knew there was really no growth? Well, what if the husband or the potential husband says, well, money doesn't define me. I'm fine with a job that is just secure and my job doesn't define me. Well, I know that I want X, Y, and Z for my life. And you're not going to you're not going to kind of put the pedal to the metal to try to make as much as you possibly can so we can have the things that we want as a family. And that's not a terrible thing to admit to,
Right.
you
And
know?
it takes a level of being able to look at yourself and really understand yourself, really understand your past, really understand how you were brought up because, you could very well have a conversation like that, but not have the self-awareness to be able to say that this is how you grew up, that this is what you actually like, this is what you actually feel, so then until you get there, you don't actually know.
Why should anyone apologize for the way they feel?
That's right. Yes.
And why should anyone feel shameful for their goals that they
Uh-huh.
that they want to achieve in their life? And it's if these things are not talked about or it's not to say that you're going to have a 100% agreement, but you have to understand where each person is coming from because again, it is the number one reason why people are getting their marriages aren't working. Not to jump into another relationship, I actually find this even more important as I'm getting older, so we're all getting older, is the money silence between adult children and their parents.
Yes.
It's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing that, if God forbid something happened to your parents, are their beneficiaries listed correctly? If they're not, like their assets are going to go through probate, which is a really long and tedious
Mhm,
process. That's
mhm.
going to happen. Do they have executors on their will? Is there someone that's going to handle everything? Is there a healthcare proxy? Who do you have a financial advisor? Who is she or he? Because they're going to be the ones that are going to help me navigate and separate assets. Is there a CPA? Is there an attorney I should speak to? Did you create a will? How is everything separated? I mean, it is something where, especially with their house, at least with accounts, Accounts usually have listed beneficiaries, but who's getting the house if there's no will?
Right.
Can you imagine? And what if
Yeah.
there's siblings that don't get along? Not to mention, these could be siblings that do get along, but because of this situation, they will no longer get along.
Right.
I mean,
It's
people
amazing how that can actually tear a whole family apart, and the deceased has no idea what they did just because they couldn't have the conversation, just because the conversation was so untouchable.
comfortable for no
Yeah.
reason because of these, again, these feelings and emotions that we have ingrained. I mean, I
Yes.
know that I grew up in a family where we did not talk about money. It was something that but it was celebrated,
Right.
when it was
Absolutely.
it was definitely
Absolutely.
celebrated. So, if it was, you know, dad had a great year, I was very fortunate that we did a lot of wonderful things. It was celebrated, but we never talked about some of the other things that are attached to that,
Mhm.
and I think that, again, that carries, and I'm trying to figure out how to break those cycles
Yeah.
with my children. I think it's really hard living in a place like Fairfield too,
Yes.
where, the kids are really entitled. Not all of them, but they've got a lot, and I know it's not just Fairfield, it's a lot of towns in Fairfield County. We're very blessed.
Westchester County, Fairfield County, the
It's
whole
not
yep.
everybody, and I know that, but they're seeing it. And it's not just Fairfield. I shouldn't even say that. It's social media,
Mhm.
they're seeing all of this stuff,
Mhm.
and it's just more, 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 more.
Attaching their worth to it and attaching their self to it, absolutely. And I think that can be very dangerous and hard to navigate, and something that now that we do have awareness about, and now I think we do have a little bit more awareness in that I can tell that parents have more. I mean, we certainly didn't have any sort of financial like, in high school, I went to a private school, I should have known a lot more about finances than
No,
I do now,
I
and
know.
there should truly be a financial literacy class, and that should be something that
They're
and
starting.
starting, yeah,
Yeah, they're starting to do that, but I don't know I don't know. The thing is like, what are they gonna teach people? They're gonna teach people how to balance a checkbook, They're not gonna teach people that, you know, money doesn't define you,
right,
and that you have to work really hard, and it's not something that you're entitled to, and if you don't get where you need to be, like, you're not a failure because you don't have the biggest house on the block, and you need to kind of, find out, what it means to you. Like, there's a lot of different words that you can think, like, what word do you associate with money? I mean, for me, I feel like it's independence. It's being able to do the things that I want to do. So there's just a lot that goes with the whole topic of money. And I guess maybe they're too young to really
well,
get
it
all of
we
that.
yeah, I mean, I think you talk about it in doses too. I mean, if we were gonna give some tips, for parents on, and moms specifically, well, firstly, I think that for, just taking the mom population, right? Because that's generally who I'm trying to talk to the most of this podcast is just the mom population and just like what they can do, what moms can do to sort of make sure that their financial future is safe. Have an episode about that and about like making sure that you have your own cards and make sure that you have your name, on certain you know, utility bills and things like that, just so that you're still in the mix of it and you're not completely letting everything go to your husband. That can Is there anything else though when it comes to, let's say we're not just we're working moms, we have a budget, but I'm not necessarily sure where to allocate money. I just kind of like go with it and like, I'll put a little over here, I'll pay some over there, and
Right.
like I don't really have
Right.
strategy, but
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like doing it. Like,
And it's when you feel like thinking about it too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, once a month, I'll be like, "I feel like I should pay off a little bit more of this," or like
So
whatever.
there, no, again, it's when you kind of feel like in the mood to do it.
Mhm, yeah.
So there's one strategy that always makes sense. It's the 50/30/20 rule. So of your salary, let's say your household salary, 50% should be going towards living expenses, like mortgage, utilities, car payments, insurance, all that kind of stuff. And the 30% is kind of like the wants, or the needs on steroids. Like, I need this, I want this. That's 30%, which I think is pretty generous.
Yeah.
And then 20%, this is just a rule of thumb, you can always adjust a little bit. And then 20% is towards savings and investing.
Mhm.
You should be doing savings is for money that you need really soon. That's something that you want to, and they always say to try to keep 6 months of your expenses in a liquid account. I think that some people have it and some people don't.
Mhm.
In a perfect world, everyone would have that, but it's hard. So they say to have 6 months of liquid funds, and then once you kind of get past that, then yes, you should be investing. But then it's what kind of an account should I be investing in? Should I be allocating towards education for my children, or should I be allocating towards retirement? This is a huge thing, for people.
Right.
And I always say, it's like all of my young families that come in, I'm like, let me guess. You're concerned about retirement, college education, and you want to do a renovation on your house. It's always something, it's always that. For renovating the house, it's a great idea to use leverage of your house as the asset, a home equity loan.
Mhm.
And any type of work that you do on your house, the interest in the home equity loan is a tax deduction. So this way you're not kind of depleting your liquidity to do that.
Mhm.
Then you wanna make sure if you're saving money that you're allocating it towards a money market account. It's not just sitting in a checking account or a savings account. Money market rates have come down a little bit, but they're still very good. They're, probably a little under 4% right now because the Fed has lowered rates, but that's still a really nice rate. Some people will have that money sitting in their checking account. It's crazy that you're just missing out on free money.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then anything after that, then you start thinking about the education and the retirement, and that's a whole nother conversation, that's what I help people do. And another little thing is that always keep in mind that you can't borrow for retirement, you can borrow for education. It's very daunting for young families, parents in their 40s, 50s to be thinking about. I say 50s is young now because I'm getting closer. It's very daunting to think about retirement and education for the kids.
Mhm.
Like I said, you can borrow, and there are other caveats, so to speak, for education, but you really can't borrow for retirement. And having that time on your side is the best, one of the, besides money, it's the second best commodity that we have. So,
Mm.
that's important to think about. That's kind of the basic, that 50-30-20 split is to try to stay in those guidelines. I would sound redundant and, generic if I said don't buy lattes and, all that kind of stuff. We kind of know that. We know where we're doing wrong. We're old enough. We're
Yeah.
pretty smart at this point, I'd like to think. We have enough life under our belt that we know that getting the Uber Eats and the lattes and getting a bag because you saw some influencer, I always say give it some time. Give it like 30 before a big purchase. Give it like, 2 or 3 weeks to see if you're still thinking about it and you still want that. But we know all the things that we're doing wrong. And I do find that those apps are really good, like the Rocket Money or Mint, which I think is now, I forget what that is, where you just hook it up to your debit card or your credit cards and you see everything that you're spending. And it
Mm.
even like breaks it into like a pie chart. So you see I'm spending 25% in dining, 25% with in retail. And then you can kind of just you gotta just check in with yourself,
Right.
and that's it. And the only way to do that, everyone says like, "Oh, don't look back, don't look back." You gotta look back a lot. You gotta look back a lot. So it's like, "Oh, look towards the future." It's like, "No, no, no, no. You gotta look back. You have to see what your history is and what you've been doing." Barometer of your life is looking back. You look back, you don't stay there. You just look there.
Yes. Look and
And
see
you
what.
just look to see what you're spending, what you're doing, how are you growing, is your income growing? Are you in the right spot? All that kind of stuff. But
Right.
it's a tricky time. It's hard. It's exciting, but it's also, very confusing time money-wise. There's a lot of stuff being thrown at this generation.
Do you feel like it's helpful to have, like, a monthly budget that's a literal Excel spreadsheet that do you feel like that's a helpful thing?
I do for some people. Some
Mhm,
people need that.
mhm,
That's something my only issue with, budgeting or and the inflows and the out is that they are so unpredictable.
mm,
It's so hard, it's like, could I predict that I needed new tires this month and that was gonna cost me XYZ, There's always things that come up. I always say that there should be like a shit happens column because
right,
you can't plan for it and you can't expect it. It just kind of is what it is. But I think it's good for certain people. I think some other people, it's not really going to, again, that's a personal thing, a personal preference. I think, again, I don't think it's going to make or break you. I
mhm.
think you just have to be aware of it. Like I said, for me, like those apps are really great because you can kind of see everything broken down.
Tell me about lifestyle choices, as we are in Fairfield County, and we have all sorts of choices of amazing things and ways that we can live, and we can go to the beach, we can, become members of country clubs, we can go t play golf, there's just so many things that are at our fingertips, and a lot of them is uh, how we get a community. I mean, that's sometimes attached to our friend groups, and sometimes, so it's interesting how money sort of interwoven into that. Tell me about how you feel and what you think a need versus a want is when we're talking about that kind of connection that you have. That's like quality of life stuff. So how important should it be in your life? Like, obviously, if you can afford it, do it. But what about, when things happen? Like, I guess the question is, like, how high should we put quality of life stuff on our list, on our budget list?
I mean, I think as high as you possibly can.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
there's nothing, nothing out there is too expensive. It's just, can you afford it?
Yeah.
So I think that if that's a priority to you to be, in a country club where you have camaraderie with people and that's something that you value socially, you know, and you find something that's a good fit and you can afford it and it does fall into that 50-30-20. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, you know, people also have to realize that it kind of helps with other aspects of your life too. You're just meeting other people and you're connecting with them on a potentially a business, you know, type of connection. So I think it's easy to get very overwhelmed, and I think it's easy to get sucked into all of that. And it just sometimes it's too much, but some people are addicted to that. And
Mhm.
some people use that to define who they are. And so that's a whole nother conversation that's probably for a therapist and not for me. But it's sad though when people are still feeling that way, at this stage. It's not like you're 25 anymore. If that's where you're finding that you're getting your, self-worth is from,
Right.
driving a fancy car and being, at a country club that you don't even really like anyone that's there,
Mhm.
then that's something else that you need to kind of question yourself and kind of look and dig deeper and see why these things are still so crucial and important, and that, your kids are learning this and your kids are, they're starting to have the same type of money story that kind of want to stop that cycle of when, they're obsessing about money and obsessing about what they don't have and what somebody else has. So that
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the kind of conversations we should be having with our kids. I mean, should we be talking to them about budget? Should we be going through our budget? Is that something that they can handle? Can they handle our household,
yes, there's no time that's too early. I think aside from that type of, you know, talking about budgets and what this costs and what that costs. I think that it's really important, and I don't think a lot of parents are doing this. And this is my personal point of view, is that I like to talk about my failures. I find it really important for parents to talk about how they and when they fail. Because
Mm.
guess what? We're still failing.
Mm.
I think that parents have this idea that they want to portray themselves as this hero and as this like financial, you know, superhero with a cape on, and I can get you this and I can do that. Look at mommy. And that is not good.
Mhm.
So I had a fail last week. I lost a household, which is like the second time that that's happened to me in 5 or 6 years, and so that's not bad. I was having at all, my retention's 100%, but stuff happens. I came home and told my daughter about that because she needs to know that it's not that easy
Right.
and that it doesn't just, keep coming in, and it doesn't, and sometimes I don't win.
Right.
And when we don't win, we need to kind of take a step back. And I can't sit here and paint myself as this like, super uber, successful person, even though I feel that I have earned that, but I'm still learning and I still fail sometimes. And the kids need to know that.
Absolutely.
They need to know that sometimes it doesn't work out and phew, maybe we need to stop. And then we talk about why did this happen? I don't know. Let's think about it.
Right.
You know, maybe I run a business, so it's like I have clients slash customers, whatever you want to say. So that's maybe a parent comes home and tells, about your boss called you in and had a really uncomfortable conversation because X, Y, and Z didn't. And they know that your job is attached to money. They know
Yeah.
you're not going there for fun. So when they see that, oh, shoot, mommy didn't have a good day, mommy didn't do as well as she should have, that is attached to our everything that we have.
Mhm.
Let them think that it's not an entitlement and that it's not guaranteed.
Right.
So that's been a new thing, and I feel like when I tell them different things like that, I don't wanna have a lot of fails, obviously, but I think it's important to talk about those things. I think it's important to talk about how you were raised and how you were raised in some of the wrong ways.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that, they can see, the differences between that. So I think they need to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I agree. I just recently ended a show, which meant that and I didn't have a show right after, which meant that I was dark. And when you're dark, you don't make money.
Right.
Um, and I contemplated whether to tell them or not, but they're old enough now. They're teenagers. They need to know that, you know what? Not everything is, lined up and not everything works out the
Yeah.
way. And so they knew, and they knew how hard it I tried really hard. I got another gig and thank goodness for it, but, like, it was one of those things where, for a minute there, they knew that I was, like, busting my butt,
Yeah.
like, busting butt to make sure
Yeah. And
that
they need to see that. They need to
Yeah,
see that struggle,
absolutely.
and it's really important, I think some of the best, lessons that I had was, when I was first married, there was a point when I'm divorced now, but, we were in really bad shape financially. It was, during the time when I was being, a caterer. And my husband at the time was starting a business and he was financially irresponsible and, you know, buying things hand over fist, and it got really bad. And I swear that has put an imprint on me in my soul that I will never forget because it got really bad. It was like one day I came home and the lights were off.
Mhm.
And I was too proud, which is, another part of my money story, to ask for help from anyone because I don't talk about money a lot and I'm trying to fix that. I'm very private with that kind of stuff. And I felt so ashamed,
Mhm.
so awful. And it's something that failure has molded who I am today, and I'm so thankful that I had that terrible time,
Yeah.
you know?
What's amazing about that is it possible for for people to go through this life and, like, never feel anything like that? And that's the thing, it's like, I I know, we've been through that. I know people that it's so much more common and people get through it, but they never talk about it. We never will
No,
talk about those hard times, those hard financial times. We act like nothing is happening. We act like it's all fine and
can
that
you yeah,
everything's under control.
can you imagine if someone had the, you know, strength to be like, "I can't do that. I'm living paycheck to paycheck right now. I can't I can't go on that to that whatever." Nobody would ever do that. It is so private.
It is. It's amazing.
It's just very
Yeah.
shameful. It's
Mhm.
almost like the way we treat
Shameful,
it's
yes.
like the way we treat mental illness,
Yes.
It's like people are like, "Oh," no one's gonna sit there and be like, "Well, I was just diagnosed with, like, manic depression," you know?
Right.
Why is it okay to be like, "I have eczema?" You know what I mean? It's like it's just falls into those topics of being again, it's too bad because
Yeah.
it shouldn't have to be that way, but it is.
Yeah, ultimately, it does affect every decision that we make. I think about this a lot actually because much of what I do, the whole reason why I do it is because I want to be able to support myself, my family. I want freedom for myself, for my kids. Like every push that I make in my position, every like and if you see the hunger in me, it is all because of that. Like
Right.
it is all due
Yeah.
to that
Well,
and
that's
it's
your
not
why. Yeah.
but people when you go to a job interview or when you talk about your job, it needs to be like your passion for the and it's not that I'm not passionate, I am, I love doing this, but at the same time, like, I'm pretty passionate about how free I wanna be. I'm pretty passionate about how I wanna be able to raise my kids. I'm
Yeah.
pretty passionate about that. That's pretty much a
Right.
big
So
passion.
why right.
So
Why is it
but
so
it's
hard to talk about the way we feel
that's
about
right.
it when it
Yeah,
has so many, important things that are associated with it? So
that's
it's
very interesting, yeah.
yeah, so I mean it's too bad, but that's where we're at and hopefully we can start changing that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
only
Without
once
it being tacky,
yes.
as we would
Yeah, I
say.
mean, obviously there's a time and a place. Like, I don't want you to walk in and be like, "Oh, I just made like, XYZ. I'm awesome." I don't need to hear that either. Look at my this, look at my that. I mean, that's the worst. No one wants to be around those people.
Right.
But, no one wants to talk about money but we should be able to talk about it with the people that are closest to us.
Yes, yes.
No, I don't want to hear about people's I got this and look at me. Like, I don't need that. But we should be able to have the conversations with people where it affects each other.
Especially in our house. We should be able to have this conversation in our house and our
Mhm.
within our family structure, 100%. And if we can't
Absolutely.
who cares about whether we can have it on social media or we can have it with our friends? But really we should. The fact that we can't have it in our house is
Well, it's costing us more money not to talk about it because divorce is expensive and, going through parents passing and having to hire people to navigate all of that business is expensive too. So the silence is very costly when it comes to, these types of topics.
yeah. So number 1 takeaway that you wanna tell all your clients, what is it?
I mean, I guess besides, just being able to talk about it, I don't feel like anything with money should have shame.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like, I have so many women that come to my office and they're so scared. There's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to your finances and money.
Mhm.
You didn't extort money from old people, you didn't rob a bank, there's nothing to be upset about here. You just this is not for some people, it's not their wheelhouse. So I just think all of the triggers and the way that you were brought up and the things that, might have hurt you before, and it's okay to admit it and to admit these feelings and how they've controlled a lot of aspects of your life,
Mhm.
your thoughts, that's okay. Like I'm a huge Dr. Phil fan. It's like he always said, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge.
Mhm.
Just acknowledge your story, acknowledge where you come from, where you want to go, and don't be afraid to look at it and again, don't be ashamed of it and just learn from your story.
Right.
We all have a story,
Yeah.
every single one of us.
Yeah. What a great topic. Thank
Yes.
you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you. Thank you so much.
This is really, really important stuff.
Yes.
So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we leave?
No, no, just thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was so fun.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.